Welcome to Marketing Speak, a series of interviews and monologues featuring thought leaders and industry practitioners in search engine optimization, e-commerce, and online marketing. Here's your host, Stephan Spencer, SEO expert, author, speaker, consultant, and internet entrepreneur.
Have you ever had a numerology reading? Are you superstitious about numbers? My guest today is Blair Gorman, the founder of Numerologist.com, one of the most popular and successful numerology sites on the web. Now, you may be wondering what numerology has to do with marketing. Whether you swear by your destiny number or not, you can definitely learn some amazing lessons about digital marketing from today's show. That's because Numerologist.com is a powerful innovator in online marketing and has been for years. They are so innovative, in fact, that at one time Google used them as a case study. Blair is often miles ahead of his competitors when it comes to embracing cutting-edge techniques. And today, he'll be talking about interactive video sales letters, or VSLs, augmented reality, virtual reality, social media, how to write killer copy, and most importantly, how to incorporate it all into a marketing strategy that generates impressive growth. And by the way, number 185, which is today's episode number, in numerology is all about professional success, material abundance, and new beginnings. So keep listening because this episode just might be your lucky number. Blair, it's so great to have you on the show.
Thank you. Good to be here.
So I would love to start off by talking about VSLs, video sales letters, because you have done something so innovative and amazing that I have not seen elsewhere. I've seen plenty of video sales letters, but yours is so interactive and it's almost like a choose your own adventure kind of VSL. And I'd love for you to share with our listeners what exactly you did there and how you even came up with this idea.
Okay, well, this might make me unpopular, but I came up with the idea because I don't particularly like VSLs for the most part. And the thing I say is that if, let's say, for argument's sake, you've got a 2% conversion rate on your VSL, then 98% of the people are not buying. And so, yeah, if you've got it for every million visitors to your site, if your VSL's half an hour long, you've wasted millions of man hours, or person hours, I should say, just wasting people's time. And I really just don't think that's cool, quite frankly. And so certainly some VSLs address that by being beneficial to the user, but we thought we would take that to the next level and really give people unique personalized value. So we essentially created the world's first personalized video sales letter.
So how does it work and how do the viewers interact with it?
Okay, well, we kind of have the perfect use case for it, which is Numerologist.com. So the application there, people just go to video.numerologist.com and they enter their first name and their date of birth. And from that, it essentially creates on the fly a completely personalized presentation. So it addresses them by name and it discusses their date of birth and basically what it means from a numerological perspective.
Okay, got it. And let's say that you've put in your date of birth and your name. What sort of personalized advice are you getting? Like your life path number, your other kinds of numbers, angel numbers? Like many of our listeners probably don't know what numerology even is. So give us a little quick explanation.
So essentially, you're getting the three main numbers in your numerology chart, which is your life path, your expression, and your soul urge. And they're just the three main components that cover the core, or at least most of the core of a numerology chart. And the main thing is that it is done on the fly and it addresses you by name. And it'll go through and render everything in real time on the fly, almost as if it's a conversation with somebody, or at least a monologue. And the thing that I should really point out is it is not robotic. We have looked into the AI side of things, and even with the very latest things from Amazon, they still sound robotic.
Yeah. This is like a voiceover artist who does this, or somebody on staff?
Yeah. We have a couple of voiceover artists, and essentially it's pretty complex because they're not just recording names. Yes, there's thousands of names being recorded because that's the only way to make it flow, but they're also recorded numerous times and in numerous inflections so that there's a completely seamless experience. So it sounds like a conversation. For example, if the first name is Hi and then the person's name runs into a vowel, for example, let's say it's Anna, then the snippet is going to be Hi Anna as opposed to Hi Anna, two different words, which doesn't sound natural. So it's a matter of figuring out all the permutations and combinations how they're going to sound at the various places in the sentence and just depending on the context of the various words and the various phrases.
Yeah, right. Because we don't want it to sound stilted or fake or robotic. We want it to sound like conversational.
Precisely. I mean, I think these call centers that you call up, when you call up the phone company, they just have the world's worst, most unnatural sounding voice recognition things, and they could do so much better.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Got it. And then did you have just a regular VSL before and then you innovated to this personalized version, or was this your first VSL right out of the gate?
We did a standard VSL, if you like, and it did well, but I really wanted to take it to the next level. My goal is to personalize the whole experience as much as humanly possible. Effectively, I want it to be as much like sitting face-to-face across the table from a real numerologist as possible.
Right. And what is that like to sit in front of or across from a numerologist as they give you your readings based on things like your birth date and so forth?
Oh, so utterly compelling.
Yeah?
I say there is nothing like a reading with a face-to-face numerologist. And sure enough, with most websites that you go to, the experience really is nothing like, a face-to-face with a numerologist. And certainly, I'm not saying that we can offer that experience, but we're getting as close as we possibly can. And it's gotten us some pretty cool attention, I have to say.
And do you have a whole team of numerologists who give readings or who create content, or are you using an outsourced kind of army of numerologists who have some sort of contractual relationship? What's the structure of this?
Oh, we're very fortunate to have some exceptional numerologists on the team here. And people always ask, am I the numerology expert? And I've got to confess and say, no, I'm not really. Now, I know the basics of it because once upon a time, I wrote the software to do the numerology readings. This was a very long time ago, or at least the sample readings. And so I studied numerology and I can give a basic reading, but not to nearly the degree of, these guys that we've got on the team that, for example, Roy has been studying it for 40, 50 years. And so, I can't compete with that. So very lucky to have that caliber of people on the team.
Very cool. And did you start off by getting a reading by somebody and then that piqued your interest and then you started reading up about it? How did numerology get on the radar screen for you?
Actually, it was when my wife got a reading, and it was a very interesting lesson because this guy drew these little circles and squares and things on a napkin in a cafe up in Auckland from New Zealand. And it was just interesting how she was just drawn into this chart that was being drawn. And it was an interesting lesson. Like, how can we emulate that as closely as possible?
Wow, that's cool. When was that?
Oh, gee, many years ago. Now, that's not quite answering your question because I first got intrigued with numerology back in 1999, which is a long, long time ago. And so we had the domain name 123 Numerology, which is kind of embarrassing nowadays. But basically back then, if you remember Yahoo, they used to sort everything alphabetically.
Yes.
Yeah. And so by having 123, we were kind of at the top.
Yep, you were ahead of the game there. For a time.
Yes, but for a little while, yes. And then we transitioned to Numerologist.com in 2004.
Okay. And was that a domain that you bought aftermarket or
yes,
ongoing concern that an existing business that you bought, or was it just the domain?
Just the domain.
Okay, cool. So you've been at this for quite a while, and the VSL stuff, we'll get into all sorts of other marketing channels and campaign types and things like that in a few minutes. But the VSL side of that, when did you first start playing with VSLs?
VSLs in their standard incarnation, probably, I'm guessing 8 years ago.
Okay. So it's been a while.
Mm-hmm.
What did you do at the beginning? What was your main marketing channel, and where was your traffic primarily coming from in the early days?
Primarily Google. I basically did the AdWords myself for quite a while, but things grew to the stage where I could no longer do it. And we were very privileged and very lucky. We had a special relationship with Google. We were used as a case study within the Asia Pacific region. So Google Sydney would fly across to Singapore and use our site as one of their internal case studies, which was pretty cool. And then everything got restructured within Google, and that sadly came to an end. And we ended up, I wouldn't say being a nobody, but just like everybody else. So no more special treatment or visits to the Google office, sadly, because they were fun.
Oh, I remember back in the early days of SEO, I was invited into the Googleplex for special meetings and things like that. And we played werewolf with some of the Google engineers and things, and it was just a very small, exclusive group of SEO experts who were invited in. Sometimes they would have meetings where it was just white hat SEOs, and I was, of course, there as well because I'm pearly white hat. And then there were ones where they mixed it up and they had some black hat SEOs in there too. And that was really interesting. They kept trying to extract the juice from those black hats. Like, what are you doing to spam us? Like, how? And they didn't get much information from them. Anyways, it is pretty cool to be able to have that kind of special relationship. Now we're all just numbers. Anyway, so now you're still doing AdWords, or Google Ads is what it's referred to now. Is that the primary channel these days, or is it dispersed around a lot of different channels?
Well, funnily enough, we're not really doing much in the way of Google Ads right now. That's something that we need to address. So we've obviously been working with you with the wonderful SEO results you've been getting us, and a lot of Facebook, and also partners or affiliates.
Uh-huh. And the partners or affiliates, are they all, like, I know you're working with ClickBank, you've got a relationship with them. Are you working with a lot of different networks, or is it all pretty much through ClickBank? Like, how is the affiliate marketing thing structured?
It's all pretty much through ClickBank, and we made a change there as well because by default, ClickBank has an open affiliate program, and what would happen is a lot of people would do search engine spamming, so they would harvest all these people's search terms and names, all these numerologists around the world, and people would think it was us, basically using their name to get up in the listings, and it was basically these rogue affiliates doing black hat sort of stuff. And so not that long ago, we just went to a closed affiliate program because we'd rather really be working with a smaller number of people, know what they're doing and play the long game, as opposed to these fly-by-nighters, just do what they've got to do.
Yeah, for sure. So ClickBank is different from, let's say, Rakuten, Linkshare, or ShareSale and so forth. In what sort of ways? Like, why ClickBank? I know that a lot of folks with ebooks and things like to work with ClickBank, but what's different about them versus all the other guys out there, the other networks?
Really, they just have that large affiliate base. That's one of the key things. And they basically pay everybody like clockwork. There's never any question about tracking and that sort of stuff because they do it. So effectively, they are the independent third party that does all that tracking.
Yeah. Speaking of the tracking, and also speaking of SEO, because you alluded to that just briefly, that we're working together on SEO. There was an interesting discovery that I found with regards to ClickBank, and the tracking that they're doing was causing your wonderful VSL to not get indexed in Google. It was showing up in the search results with a listing that said, no information about this page, learn why, for quite a while. And then we discovered, I figured out what the reason was. When you pass through a redirect, even just for a moment, and then back to your site through a ClickBank or whatever affiliate tracking link, if there is a robots.txt disallow in place, that blocks the flow of PageRank, and it also prevents Googlebot, the spider, from accessing the content of the page. And so the listing shows with no information available about it. And then also the rankings suffer because Google doesn't know what the content is of that page. In the case of video.numerologist.com, it was a very important page that was ranking on page 1, but lower on page 1. And by tweaking this, fixing that technical issue, that bumped you up to, I think you're currently number 3 or 2 or something for numerology, which is a very important keyword for you guys.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, so that made a big difference. So there are a lot of technical nuances that, I don't need to extract all this technical geekery out of you in regards to SEO and so forth, but I think it's important for our listeners to understand that just one small change can make a huge difference to your traffic and results that you get, right?
Yeah, for sure. Although we can't take any credit for that. That was a very good find on your part.
Yeah, pretty cool. It wasn't obvious because the robots.txt file on your website was totally fine. We didn't have any disallows or anything that were that was preventing Googlebot from accessing your content. It was on that third-party site.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So let's talk a bit more about SEO and where that fits in to your marketing strategy. Because many, many years, the early years of your business, you didn't get a lot of SEO value. You were more focused on the ad side of things, the paid media side of things, and doing promotions with affiliates and so forth. And it was just kind of a nice to have if any SEO traffic, any organic traffic came in, but it wasn't a priority, right?
That's right.
So what was the thought process around not making it a priority, but then changing strategy and making it a priority? And, of course, that's when you reached out to me. So what was the evolution of the thought process there?
Well, really, when the business grew, it was the realization that we are growing an asset and that good rankings are a key part of that asset. They do add to the value of it. And, they are a long-term thing. The great thing, for example, about Facebook or Google Ads is that you can basically put an ad up and in theory, assuming that your site converts, you can be making money overnight. Whereas with SEO, it's not really like that. However, the other side of that, of course, is that when you stop spending, you stop selling on those ad platforms, whereas SEO just keeps going. So it's a different kind of ROI.
Yeah. So it's like, it reminds me of the definition of an asset from the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So Robert Kiyosaki defined an asset as something that puts money in your pocket month after month, and a liability is something that takes money out of your pocket month after month. So the house you live in typically is a liability because it's costing you money, whereas if you buy a house and then you rent it out, that's an asset because it's putting money in your pocket every month. I see SEO as an asset that continues to pay you month after month after you've built that core base, because you're going to, let's say, get some organic traffic from having good link profile that you've built up over the course of, let's say, the last couple of years or whatever. And if you take an entire year off from link building, you'll still get benefit even though you've stopped. And that refers back to what you were saying about it being an asset that continues to reap rewards for you even after you've stopped putting the budget towards it.
Yes, and I do like the analogy there of a house, as in SEO does require quite a commitment to do it properly. However, if you were to compare it to the value of a house and the rent that you get back from that house, I think it's a much better investment.
Yeah, so and I know there are companies that specialize in finding these investment opportunities, kind of like real estate, but in the virtual world. In fact, one of my past guests was Ken Courtwright, also a client of mine, and their business model is to find online businesses, websites that they can acquire and bring in a site partner to help fund that acquisition. They are along with Income Store, and Income Store continues to build its portfolio. And by having the ability to scale things like link building and content creation and systems administration and so forth across all the 1,000, 2,000, whatever websites in their portfolio, then they're able to continue to achieve scale, which is really exciting. And I think more compelling even than buying real estate. But, I'm a little biased.
Yeah, I met Ken last year. Very smart guy.
Yeah, he's cool. So anyways, and listeners, will put a link in the show notes to the Ken Courtwright episode and any other thing that we refer to in this episode, like the VSL at video.numerologist.com. All that will go into the show notes. And I know from an SEO perspective, we've had some cool growth in terms of organic keywords and organic traffic and so forth. There's a case study, in fact, that we published on my site on stephanspencer.com. What do you think is the future for Numerologist.com in terms of organic? Is there going to be a big content push or link building push or focus on some sort of machine learning, AI type thing, or maybe expanding into other genres that are complementary to numerology, maybe tarot or whatever? Like, where do you see yourselves heading over time?
Well, it's a bit of a vague answer, but pretty much all of the above. We've also been developing some mobile apps which are augmented reality based, so that's been a lot of fun. So that'll be coming out probably in the coming weeks. It's essentially done. We just need to release it, and it's an iPhone app. Sorry, Android users for the time being. That effectively uses your phone almost as like a looking glass through to a physical table that you've got in the room, and the tarot cards basically appear on that table, and you touch the cards by touching them on the screen on the table, even though, of course, in the real world, the cards don't exist, but the table does.
Nice.
Yeah, so we're having a lot of fun with that. There's also a numerology one in the pipeline and an astrology one too that effectively projects almost like the universe into your living room, and you can walk around it and see the various constellations. So certainly R&D is a major focus, and really just the whole user experience. That's the big thing that I like to focus on. And it's because of that user experience that we've been getting these random acknowledgements, from celebrities and stuff, which has really helped our business as well. But yeah, all of the above: content marketing, the various social media channels, the Pinterests and so forth.
Yep. So you have a Pinterest presence. You're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Like, what are the primary social networks that you're focused on?
They're the main ones, Instagram. And of course, we have quite a strong Facebook following. I think there's about 700,000 followers at this stage.
That's impressive. Very good. And are you doing Instagram ads as well as Facebook ads?
Yes, we are, through basically a partner.
Okay.
So we have a special relationship, and technically they're an affiliate. However, we work very closely because they are better than us at that stuff. And I'm really interested in how we're going to market the augmented reality app, because I think that's going to be a very cool thing to put in our ads, where we can have a video of somebody holding up their phone, and you'll be able to see them, you'll be able to see their phone, you'll be able to see the table, and you'll be able to see the cards effectively projected onto that table. And I think that could make a very interesting ad, particularly in Facebook, Instagram.
Yeah. And are you guys looking at doing PWA progressive web apps in addition to regular mobile apps?
I have to say no, because I'm not familiar with PWA.
Okay. So yeah, progressive web apps are web-based, like web browser-based. Somebody in their Safari browser could go to the URL for your mobile app that is the web app version of it, and it's not going to be as slick and as functional as your regular mobile app, but you could replicate quite a lot of functionality with it. And you can have it store or cache some of the data in the browser so it doesn't load slowly. It's pretty speedy like a mobile app. And you can make it search engine friendly to get the content indexed that's inside of the progressive web app. So that's something you might want to look into. I'm happy to, as an aside, give you some more details on that later. But
thank you. Well, actually, we are. I just wasn't aware of that terminology. One of the things that I want to look into next is web VR, because there is a framework out there for that. And so effectively to take our augmented reality apps and see if we can do it in the browser on a phone, because downloading an app it can be a bit of a nuisance. But if you're right there on the site and you can do augmented reality on the phone, then that's a way cooler experience. And I think it's just going to become more and more practical and feasible, and maybe even inevitable as time goes on. Right now, throughout the US, 5G nodes are being installed, ready for a rollout next year, and we're going to basically have about 100 times the internet speed of what we've got now on our devices. And I think that's going to be a game changer.
Yeah. And so the AR, so augmented reality and virtual reality, VR sides of things is definitely going to become huge. It's already starting to take off. Those of us who are playing around with devices like the Oculus Rift and so forth are already getting a taste for that, but it's going to come really, really fast, and you need to be on top of this coming new trend. One thing that really impressed me was I was at the Abundance 360 conference that Peter Diamandis puts together, and he shows all the latest cool tech and where things are heading. It brings in all these amazing futurists and stuff. You're part of Abundance Digital now, right?
Digital. Thanks to your recommendation. It's incredible.
Yeah. So have you seen those sessions on AR and VR?
I just signed up a couple of weeks ago and I've seen some of them.
Okay.
And it is interesting to see what's in the pipeline. Even just later this year, the headsets that are coming out that are going to be superior, not just in terms of wireless, but also superior optics. So it's been good because I've had the Oculus Rift for a couple of years now, and I've been anxious to experience the next level. Because right now, we're still at a stage where text is not particularly readable on those devices, but and that's going to change very soon.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, if you really want to have your mind expanded, read a book called The Diamond Age, a young lady's illustrated primer, and that will blow your mind. It's an incredible book. It's one of my favorite books. If you're familiar with Steve Jurvetson, he mentioned at an event that I was at that that book is his favorite book. And so I had to get it. It's actually fiction. I'm not really usually reading fiction, but I loved that book because it's based on the coming age of nanotechnology and how we're going to interface with things like VR and AR. Once there are these utility clouds that are nanobot swarms that can create what looks like a human or a pet or whatever, and you can interact with it. So you could be in a virtual world 3-dimensionally, and then they could have actors on the other side of the world that are providing the interactivity. It could be like watching a movie that you can engage in, be the hero in, and then the actors are responding to what you're doing. And so it becomes a choose your own adventure sort of world. So that's one sort of example of how things are going to be so vastly different in the next 10 or 20 years compared to what we're experiencing now with going to a theater and just sitting and eating popcorn. And it's just a, whoop-de-doo 3-dimensional experience with your glasses on. Like we're at the just very early stages of a full immersion type of experience. Pretty cool.
Ridiculous. And, with Moore's Law, it's not as far away as we think.
That's right. Yeah. So there's a book by Ray Kurzweil called The Singularity is Near. I also recommend that you kind of wrap your head around all the coming technology and when it's due to hit and what the implications will be. And by the time we get to about 2050, maximum, I'm like 2065, we will get to what is referred to as the singularity, where all known laws of the universe in terms of evolution, especially human evolution, will break down and we won't be able to predict where things are going to be after that. Kind of like a quantum singularity being a black hole where all the known laws of physics break down inside of it once you're past that event horizon. So imagine an evolutionary singularity where we have no clue what's going to be in store for us. It's just all bets are off, and that's coming in many of our lifetimes. It's
an exciting time to be here.
exciting and scary, two sides of the same coin, but it certainly provides a lot of opportunity. You have to be thinking about 5 years ahead, though, and not just assuming that we're going to have linear progression.
And you know what? I can't wait to get rid of these cell phones. I might be showing my age here. However, I am at least 10 times, maybe 20 times more productive on a desktop computer than I am on a phone because, I don't know, clumsy thumbs, call it what you will. But, the multitasking, the productivity on a phone is, for me at least, just a very small fraction of what I can achieve on a desktop. So I can't wait until phones go away and we'll have more of a desktop experience, but of course much, much better in a mobile device form factor, or more likely a glasses-based form factor. So that's my personal wish, and I don't think it's that far away.
Right. So we'll be able to just extend our arms and fingers and start manipulating virtual space and achieving whatever we could have done on a laptop probably quite a lot faster, talking to our device as well, because that's much more efficient and fast than typing. Right? So typing maximum speed for many of us is probably 60 or 80 words a minute, but you can rattle off a lot faster through speech what your instructions are for the computer or your messages for your staff or whatever. And that revolution or that switch from graphical user interface or GUI to this linguistic user interface where you're speaking to your technology more than you're typing on it is going to be a huge game changer, bigger than the change that happened when we went from text-based kind of DOS and Unix terminal window kind of typing to a graphical user interface. Now imagine even bigger tectonic shift when we switch to the Louis, which is probably only a couple years away.
And I can't wait until the technology is so sophisticated that it'll be able to recognize a New Zealand accent.
I have no problem with it, but I lived in New Zealand for almost 8 years, so I'm used to it.
Me using Siri on the phone is an interesting experience, but it gets it right most of the time, but still a lot of room for improvement there.
Yeah. So now let's switch to this idea of working with influencers, celebrities, super affiliates. You mentioned that you've gotten some celebrity call outs because you have such a really cool user experience that's very distinctive. Who would be some of the celebrities that have given you a shout out?
Well, first of all, it's cool. However, we always want to make it cooler. So there's a lot of stuff in the pipeline. We certainly don't want to rest with what we've got now. And so we're going to be playing with a whole lot of other stuff which will capitalize on the faster bandwidth that we're soon going to have. But to answer your question, one of the most awesome ones was Tyrese Gibson. He's the actor out of Fast and Furious, and he was so blown away by our user experience that he posted not one, not two, but 3 different videos on his Instagram, and he changed his Instagram link in his bio to our link so that all of his followers could check us out.
That is so cool.
Yeah, it's worth. We couldn't ask for a better endorsement because you see the video, you see him, and you see his friend in the room on his phone checking out our site, and he's basically saying, "This is not spam. I'm not getting paid for this. I don't know who these people are, but all you do is you enter your name and your date of birth into this webpage, and it will mess you up." And it was awesome.
It'll blow your mind. Yep.
Exactly. Yeah. And then we had another one more recently. It was a friend of the Kardashians that basically said, "We love Numerologist." And unfortunately, it kind of melted down our servers, the influx of traffic, because we had a scaling system, but it was a system that took a second or 3 to scale up. And so in response to that, now the whole system will scale up within microseconds or milliseconds, so that if we have an extreme surge like that, the site won't go down for a bunch of users.
So you did a big technology restructuring recently. Do you want to share any thoughts or experience around that and what you learned or what platforms you ended up utilizing?
I'm not really that qualified to talk about it. We are certainly utilizing Kubernetes a lot.
Okay, so Kubernetes is something that many of our listeners probably don't even know exists, or they've never even heard that word. That's a pretty robust, powerful platform that some of the biggest brands, internet companies in the world are using, right?
Yes, and really what we want is scalability, because the more we focus on the user experience and the more your listeners focus on their user experience, the more likely we are to get these random shout-outs that just generate an avalanche of traffic. And they're not much good if your server can't cope. So really it's just about instant scalability, about spawning off new instances, if that makes sense to people, as fast as possible so that your systems can cope with a sudden and unexpected influx of traffic.
Right. So I'll link in the show notes to the Kubernetes site for listeners who are interested in learning about that. It's a major investment to migrate to Kubernetes, right?
Certainly, and it's taken quite a while. However, there are also cost savings associated with it compared to a lot of cloud platforms.
It's kind of like, I don't know, migrating to SAP or something as your ERP system or something. It's a major initiative.
Yes, and so it's been happening for quite some time. Unfortunately, can't take any credit for it. We have an amazing technical team, and so any really technical questions, we'd probably have to ask them.
Yeah. So whose idea was it to go with Kubernetes? Was it yours or somebody on your tech team?
No, I believe it was Nick on our tech team who heads that.
Yeah, he's a smart guy.
Mm-hmm. He certainly is.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that has been very successful for you guys has been to do promotions around certain holidays or time periods, special dates and things like that. Can you fill us in a bit about how that all works?
Sure. Well, a lot of it is tied to numerology. So our biggest promotion of the year is the New Year promotion. And that goes well, I think, for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's the new year and people are looking for new direction and they've got New Year's resolutions. They want to know what's in store for the year ahead. And secondly, from a numerology perspective, is that certain numbers change with the new year. And so you kind of get not a fresh set of numbers, but some of your numbers change. There's something called the personal year in numerology that's calculated by using your date of birth, for example, in combination with the current year. And as the digits in that current year change, in other words, on January the 1st, then certain aspects of that chart change. And so we bake that into the personalization of our promotions, is where we'll talk to the person and we'll say, hey, Stephan, we see you're entering a 7 personal year based on your date of birth of yada, yada. So the more we can personalize, the better it is. I think that's the thing that I'm very hot on is user experience and personalization. And we personalize more than anybody I know.
Yeah. So what would be a typical numerology site that doesn't personalize like you do versus what personalization and...
just go to Google and type in numerology and click on anything that does not say numerologist.com.
But what's the experience like? That's just click here, put in your date, and then click here to download a PDF of your reading or something, and just flat web pages with calendars and things like that? Like what's...
Yeah, generally flat web pages. Most people do sell PDFs, and I don't want to criticize them because we did that ourselves one stage, basically black and white PDFs with no real concern for design or aesthetics. But we basically have spent years creating these reports, and again, I didn't do them, so I'm not blowing my own horn here. But I will say that they are beautiful, and we spent so much time just making them. First of all, the content, obviously that's got to be first rate, but the presentation is up there to match that content. And I think that's where a lot of sites fall down, is they do have pretty good content, but zero regard for presentation. They're just ugly black and white reports, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah. So the it's not just user experience, it's like the brand presentation is very important to you and to the company. So you make a point of it to really have a rich design experience, and I'm guessing you have things like mood boards and brand guidelines and that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm. I will say something funny which might be interesting to your listeners, and that's that I was very much a direct response copywriting guy, and for me copy was king and design was unimportant. And don't get me wrong, because copy is tremendously important, but I used to laugh at people that would go on about their logo, for example, and not really give much precedence or priority to the other things, the offer, the copy, all that sort of stuff. Having said that, we spent a very long time, I don't know if I want to say, it was probably the better part of a year, coming up with this company logo because we rebranded within the last year. And what was interesting there was I did a lot of ad split testing just to see if a logo on an ad would affect the click-through rate. And just that silly little logo doubled our click-through rate.
Wow.
It's crazy. I had no idea. I thought it might have given us a 10 or 20% increase, but not doubling. So I think that the lesson there is if you're looking at designing or redesigning a logo, do take it seriously.
Mm-hmm.
It's just part of the brand experience, and the logo has to tie in with the other stuff, of course. However, I did not give it nearly as much weight as I probably should have. And so we're very happy with the look and feel we've got now. Having said that, the whole site is getting a major facelift in the next 2 to 3 months.
Yeah. Yeah. You see, you've hired a really good designer.
Mm-hmm. This is true. And if you'd like to mention him now, please feel free because he's very good.
Yes. Greg Merrilees. It's Studio One Design. I love Greg and his team. Yeah. So they're doing some amazing stuff for you, and they've done some amazing stuff for you in the past, done a lot for me over the years, and we're still working together. So yeah, big shout out to Greg. So tell our listeners about mood boards and why they're important, and brand kind of style guides and that sort of thing.
Really, just because as someone new joins the team, they get to create things that all in alignment so that you don't have what we probably once had, which is a bit of a hodgepodge, if that's a term over there, where certain creatives look completely different and just don't look in place. So effectively uniformity, I suppose, if I was to say it in one word.
Yeah, so getting everybody on the same page. And a brand is so much more than just a logo. It is a promise delivered, fulfilled, right? So a brand is a promise. And so if your promise is to provide the best user experience and the best reading and the best kind of foresight into where your life is heading and how you can shape it and shift it into something even more abundant and fulfilling and awesome, then everything you do plays into that brand, not just your logo and your layout and so forth, but even the culture of the company and the kinds of tools and apps that you build and so forth. It all feeds into the brand.
Yes, for sure. Every touch point.
So what are some touch points that we didn't talk about that you want to maybe bring up now?
Let me think. We're just redesigning our autoresponder series, and it probably doesn't make sense for your listeners to look at it now. Well, they can to see, I suppose, how it is now, but effectively I want to create Photoshop quality images that go right in the email that are personalized. So we do have personalized images in the emails now, which is something that, again, very, very few people do. And they look okay. They're not quite up to par with the rest of the design because they're personalized. So the question was, how can we create something that's just magically beautiful, but also personalized? Almost so compelling that people can't not click on it.
Amazing.
And that's the goal anyway.
When is that going to go live?
I've sorted out the technology behind it, and now it's just a matter, we do have some artists, however, they're busy with other stuff, so it's just a matter of getting the bandwidth from the artists to do the actual design and the concepts.
Okay, so maybe later this year.
Yeah, sometime this year.
Yeah, okay, cool. I'm excited to see that. So the autoresponder series, are you doing more trigger-based emails based on things like a special date coming up that you know from them filling out their numerology information? Is it more kind of just email blasts, weekly newsletter sort of thing, or?
All of the above. And yet we do need to do a lot more of that trigger-based thing. But mostly it is around global calendar of events, the phases of the moon, Mercury retrograde, which is more astrological, or totally astrological and not numerology. However, we do touch into those areas, so we certainly take a notice of those dates.
So the email marketing is, some is trigger-based, some is kind of just email blasts, and a lot of it is based around special dates and astrological events and things like that. Where do you see the growth opportunity with email marketing beyond just the improving the imagery and the personalization of those images?
Well, this is something that I've been thinking about for a long time. We need a system, and maybe we need to design it, where much like we create the user experience, the video on the fly, that each person gets a completely unique email that is generated on the fly. And, technically it should probably not be that hard. It's just a matter of getting around to it when you've got lots of other things to focus on.
Yeah. Well, you have so many things in the cooker at once. I don't even know how you keep track of all of it. You've got an amazing team.
Yeah, all credit to my team.
Yeah. How did you find all these great people? Because they are top notch, and the team is everything. I remember reading, and I think it was Good to Great in that book, where the discussion around getting the right team members on the bus in the right seats makes all the difference. You could hire a great team and have a mediocre idea or mediocre product, and you can still get funded. But if you've got an amazing product or amazing idea and a mediocre team, you'll never get funded.
Yeah, that's interesting. A lot of companies do very well by first assembling the team before they even know what they're going to do, which is crazy, but true. And I think to answer that question, culture does have a lot to do with it. And we do want to basically have a sense of family, if you like. And we have had people come to us and say, we so want to join you guys, which is really nice.
Yeah. And you don't just have staff that are contractors or employees, but you have like companies come and join your team too, as almost like they're embedded in your team, but they're small agency or small like boutique firm, right?
Yes, we do. And yet the feeling is that they are part of the company. Now, even if they have their own business and they sometimes have other clients, we convene in the US and we have these wonderful get-togethers, and more often than not, we just have this very nice family feeling.
Yeah. And I've met a number of the team, some virtually and some in person, and they are all top notch.
They are. And my goal is to make myself the weakest link, and I think I'm getting there.
Yeah. The expression that if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So very blessed in that respect.
I totally am on board with that concept. I think that's the way that you grow a business and build an amazing life too, for that matter.
Mm-hmm. And another saying, something like the smartest person hires people that are smarter than themselves.
Yeah, for sure. Now, another aspect to your online marketing that I think you're going to be expanding upon is podcasts, because you're on a podcast now and you have a podcast. But what are you doing currently with your podcast, and where do you see this potentially heading?
Okay, so we have a number of contributors who basically help us with our podcast. They create the content and we wrap it up and publish it. And, that's been pretty good. Very, very grateful for all these contributions. And we want to add to that by finding, notables in related industries, I think. So we've got, for example, our numerology guy is super, super qualified in astrology. It's pretty hard to imagine how difficult it is to get accredited in astrology. People think it's easy, and I've got to be honest, it's too hard for me. I've looked at it. You can get software programs that do all the hard work, but to actually become an accredited astrologer requires years of work. And you've got to pass a ton of exams. There's very few of them. And we've got access to that caliber of people. So to, I think, interview people of that caliber in semi-related fields could add a lot of value to our subscribers.
Yeah. There's a big difference between content, whether it's on a podcast or in a blog or article library or whatever, that is kind of ephemeral because it's about something that's happening this month or this week. It's Mercury in retrograde or whatever, and stuff that is kind of timeless advice around personal development or seizing the opportunity, following your dreams, that sort of stuff. You can get a lot of SEO value and ongoing benefit in other ways from more evergreen content than from ephemeral content. But there's a trade-off, because if you only do evergreen content, you're going to miss out on things that are just really important of the moment. And that's a critical aspect to numerology, is like there's something happening this week. It's an astrological thing, or it's 12-12-12 or something, whatever. I don't know.
Exactly. And so we want to be able to cater for those timely events, to be able to give forecasts, monthly forecasts. But at the same time, I think we've probably focused a little too much on that side, because nobody is really that interested in checking out last month's forecast, or last year's for that matter.
Right. So with this podcast, for example, with Marketing Speak, I have a huge percentage of my downloads and listens are in the back catalog, in the old episodes. There's still plenty of interest and activity with the newest episodes, but if you were to take away all the back catalog traffic and listenership, that would really hurt. And yet with your podcast, because it's so focused on what's happening this month or week or whatever, it's probably pretty unlikely you're going to get a lot of back catalog traffic, right, for the podcast.
Very much so. And that is something that we do need to shift.
Yeah. So if you were to have to pick one particular channel of, let's say, podcasting or YouTube channel or Facebook or Instagram or Pinterest or Twitter, which channel would you pick and why?
Probably we really need to take our content marketing to the next level, because that is the thing, I think, more than those other initiatives that you talk about, that will get us up the rankings in Google. Now, YouTube is kind of related to that, and that is something we also probably want to address. And again, my very vague answer would be all of the above, but I think first and foremost, probably content marketing, to create really compelling pieces of content that are not ephemeral, but that will be relevant a year from now, 2 years from now.
Right. That's kind of the engine for link building. If you have remarkable content that is evergreen and super valuable and worthy of links, you're going to get a lot of shout outs on people's blogs and in their resource lists and so forth.
Yes, and that reminds me of Seth Godin's book, The Purple Cow, I think it was called, and that to be remarkable, and that has been a major focus, is to have our whole user experience as remarkable as we can make it. And because of that, some very influential people have remarked on it, which is cool. However, there's always another level, so we're always looking to improve and become more remarkable.
Yep, I love Seth Godin. I love The Purple Cow. He's got a new book that's fantastic as well. This is Marketing. I've had Seth on this podcast, and you haven't listened to that episode?
No, I will.
Okay, yes, you're going to love it.
Because you have this back catalog of really relevant content.
Exactly. So listeners, if you haven't already listened to the Seth Godin episode, that is a must. It is incredible. So if there's something I should have asked you, but I didn't, maybe you could share that with me and what your answer would be for our listeners.
I think really just my overall philosophy, and it comes back to those two words, user experience. And I think a lot of people really just give that lip service. But to sit down and really think, how good can we make this for our users? And not focus so much on how much stuff can we sell our users. And we want to make the experience not just great for our customers, but for visitors, whether they buy from us or not. And so it's not really a sales funnel, as a lot of people talk about in the traditional sense. We want to give people as much choice as possible. So, for example, they get the option to enter their email address for follow-ups and for the reading that they just experienced to be sent to them. However, it's completely optional. So they can proceed without doing it if they want to. So really just giving the users the most control over the experience possible, and also just the best experience possible.
Yeah. Well, it kind of boils down to adding massive value, and regardless of whether they decide to pay you money or not, you've made a difference in their lives, and they're going to share that with friends and family and people that are in their network. So
yeah, and that phrase, moving the free line, which basically means giving people a ton for free so that they think, wow, if I'm getting this much for free, what's it going to be like if I buy something?
Yeah. And what Frank Kern calls giving results in advance is another core concept. Like if you want to teach somebody how to play the guitar for a price, then how about you teach them how to play the F chord for free? And then they feel successful and masterful and appreciative. And of course, they're much more inclined to buy the product then.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, if folks wanted to follow you on social media, if they wanted to check out the Numerologist site, where should we send them to? I know, of course, the video sales letter, video.numerologist.com, has been mentioned several times, but is there anywhere else we should send them?
I think that really is the main place. They can go to see the main website just at numerologist.com, and that is going to get a facelift soon. But really, I think it's the video that will differentiate us from, and probably be of the most interest to your listeners, just to sample the user experience for themselves.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you, Blair. Thank you, listeners. And we'll catch you on the next episode of Marketing Speak. This is your host, Stephan Spencer, signing off.
Thanks for listening to the Marketing Speak podcast. Your host has been Stephan Spencer, 3-time author and leading expert on SEO and online marketing, whose client list boasts such brands as Zappos, Sony, and Chanel. Want to learn more about SEO, social media, or just generally how to build an online empire? Visit marketingspeak.com for an archive of past episodes, along with transcripts and show notes. In addition, a wealth of resources that include video-based training, screencasts, webinars, white papers, articles, and blog posts can be found on his SEO coaching site, scienceofseo.com. To reach Stephan, visit his personal website at stephanspencer.com or email him directly at stephan@stephanspencer.com. Until next time.